All right.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello. Welcome. Proactive Health Collective of Keene. We're missing two. Now we got to explain this. We have some, oh, I can't do that either. Okay. We have to explain this. Matt and Tisa, doctors Matt and Tisa Apatelli, who are normally with us. Most of you know they're about to, Tisa's about to deliver a child. We don't know between now, sometime here in this month. They also have a lot of really exciting things they're doing in their office space, Cheshire Wellness. So they need kind of every scrap of time to do that. So they're not going to be with us today, but we wish them well, and they're with us in spirit, and we're just going to do it without them. We're going to limp along, I guess, but we'll do our best. Yeah. So today we're thinking, like, as much as it's still like we're in Keene, New Hampshire. So I don't know where you are, because a lot of times people listen from all over the place. And but where we are, it's still in the teens, temperature speaking. But the days are getting longer. We're into a lot of high wind, which I like, because they've said forever, March comes in, if it comes in like a lion, it goes out like a lamb. If it comes in like a lamb, it goes out like a lion. We have definitely lion into March here. Yesterday was my daughter's 33rd birthday, March 4th. So, that's like March. I love March, but anyway, so even so, the days are getting longer. We were just talking off camera how the bird song changes. I noticed it 2 weeks ago. All of a sudden, you're hearing in the morning, you're hearing sounds that aren't winter bird sounds. And you see a little bit of a change, and I have more of the smaller birds feeding at my finch feeder, the small bird feeder. The suet, they haven't come back to the suet yet, but I'm seeing a lot of them picking up the ground stuff. And so life moves on. And one of the things that's going to happen here very soon is spring allergies. And it doesn't take a lot of heat to do that. It just takes the time when the trees and the grass, things begin to bud. And so what is like a wonderful thing, it uplifts our spirits, it's spring, the days are long, the sounds are wonderful, the smells as the earth warms up and you smell mud. You just smell earth and things. And we all, have experiences, whether we've consciously thought about it or not. It's part of our soul. The season changes is just part of us.
Yeah, I think, when you think about the seasons, in the winter, we're sort of hunkering down and maybe contemplating the lessons of the year and planning, for the new season. And that spring is like an emergence, and it can be obviously present challenges, but it also presents, opportunities for people. I think.
Now, I got to show you this. The client brought me this last week, a week ago today. And Monday, this was down below these.
Wow.
Crazy.
Okay.
It's nuts, huh?
That's
So talk about emergence, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like,
oh.
It's like when those resolutions, the ones that have stuck, that start to emerge that new you.
Yeah.
Like all the things that you've done, you planted the seed, you're kind of waiting, you're patient, but you're doing your due diligence, and the spring is a time that those things can emerge. And it also can be a time of awareness too, of the things that maybe didn't emerge for you. And there's always an opportunity to do more, but the summer is kind of like when we're out there, just living our lives and being active. And then in that fall, we sort of come back together and celebrate the year and, connect with family. But, as you were saying, there can be present challenges in the spring for a lot of people with the pollens and things. It can also kind of give us a look at you know, maybe the fact that our body may be a little imbalanced, like if our liver is already overtaxed, that might make that season more difficult. You know,
Right.
and I think you know this, like if you have something going on, you call it an allergy, but you didn't have it all your life. It just sort of started to come on slowly. That's a pretty good indicator that your body is beginning to get more taxed. And, you know, that's a symptom that tells you, okay, something's not quite right under there. But I'd be interested in hearing Allison's from a at
Yeah.
some point from a seasonal standpoint, because I know you talk about the seasons and the balance with the chi and all that stuff, what spring means there.
Yeah, the springtime is the wood element, so it's the liver and the gallbladder organ systems, and the challenge of the liver is so in Chinese medicine, we look at the elements of nature and kind of use a lot of those elements in our diagnoses.
Mm-hmm.
And so the challenge of the liver would be wind. And an allergy could be like a wind heat invasion, or what we call like a wind cold invasion. But wind is like kind of categorized by things that come and go. And you could treat the, you know, allergies with the liver. And also you want to eliminate wind from the body. When the liver is in charge of the free flow of chi in the body, and when it's kind of taxed, the energy just doesn't move as smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
And you can feel that in your body, like irritability or like angst or kind of agitation. I think that's really common in the springtime, as we kind of like, especially if we haven't used winter to really like calm down and slow down and really build our resources.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can kind of like get this angst and this kind of, you know, things get stuck. And I think that makes it, I don't know, just a challenge. Presents a little bit of a challenge. Got it.
So watch out, weekend warriors.
What's that?
So watch out, weekend warriors. You know,
Yeah.
Get warmed up first.
Yeah. If you haven't really done things appropriately within the season, the previous season, it can present a challenge for you in the next season. So,
All right. So this is a cool question I've never thought of before. See what you two think of this. So we're living in New England, and we have 4 seasons. I mean, we get the 4 seasons. We got the whole thing. What about people who live where there really aren't 4 seasons?
yeah.
Does the body still crave? I'm sure it does. The rest of winter, kind of the intro, kind of the emergence, then the fall out, then the coming down of fall. So I don't know. We've never even talked about that, but I think it's an interesting.
That's a great question. I've wondered that myself. And it reminds me of, so with diabetes, they've done these, you know, like kind of these treatment areas where you do a very strict detox and you eat lots of raw food, and it can reverse your, you know, your blood sugar levels back to normal. But in Chinese medicine, the idea is your digestive system's like a wood stove. You need to warm things up, and it functions better if you have warm cooked foods. But if you look at the area where they do these studies, they're always in hot climates. So I think that because of that, the body is more resilient. It kind of has that fire energy in it from the environment.
Wow.
So I think it doesn't as much. I think our bodies really interact with our environment. And if our environment isn't fluctuating that much, I don't think we necessarily need it as much. But then there's always other rhythms, right? The rhythms of the full moon and the new moon, and the women's sort of menstrual cycle, and the rhythms of aging.
And don't you think probably people have adapted to where they're, you know, it might be different if you're like a snowbird, you know, if you lived in New Hampshire and now you go down to Florida for the winter.
Right. Yeah, well, Debbie has moved to Florida in July and didn't feel any of that. Craved the sun even more. So I think that's kind of supporting, I think that's what she's saying, is kind of supporting what you just said, Allison.
Yeah.
I also think we have a lot of seasonal affective disorder up here. Well, we know that. I mean, as practitioners, as just people living here and knowing people. You don't have to be a practitioner if you don't have it yourself, because of the limitation of the light and everything. People who are severely seasonal affective disorder, they move to California, they move to Florida, they take, even just if they can get a couple of weeks in February to go south, will really benefit. And some so severe will just say, no, I just moved. I mean, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess different needs, different strokes for different folks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at Chinese medicine, the whole language has developed, really the basis of it was in China, 5,000 years ago. So you had these strong climates. And so
Yeah.
the language around these texts is, when they talk about wind cold invasion causing Bell's palsy, for example, you don't see that condition very much around here, but it's just littered through the textbooks about points that treat that. Because if you go to China, I've been there once, but I didn't have this experience, but I've heard from different people, there's this brutal cold wind. Like as soon as you get off the airplane, kind of strikes you. And it's this like instant, can cause paralysis of the face.
Wow.
So yeah.
Pretty strong wind.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So,
All relative, right? All just a language. You kind of got to apply it to every person and every specific case, where they live, the environment they're in, how it presents in their body, what their nutrition's like.
I've already had people needing allergy medicine, needing allergy herbs. And you don't always know what that is. A lot of times they need them during the winter because of wood smoke, or maybe there's mold, or maybe there's other things going on. But we're going to see a huge ramp up for that. And what happened, I think, as I remember last year, and maybe the year before, was that it was really cold, and then all of a sudden it got warm. So things that would normally have budded or started, we do kind of a more gradual. Now it's the birch trees, now it's the oaks, now it's the elms, now it's the whatever, the pines. They all kind of like went boom at the same time. And we've seen a couple of really rough allergy seasons in the last couple of years. Have you guys noticed that in your practice? Like people having more problems than usual?
Mm-hmm. I've seen a few cases like that.
Yeah, I think, again, my opinion is that when this body systems in general, the elimination system, the detoxification systems are already overwhelmed as it is, you're going to see more people responding to more things coming in. The body naturally does, these things are getting in, right? And the body naturally deals with it. It's just, if it's backed up, it's like a restaurant that's full. Sorry, we can't take any. And it gets pushed out to other areas. And then, that's why you have your inflammation in the sinus and that kind of thing.
So I agree with you, Dr. Jean, because, when people come to me with allergies and things, or whatever it be, if it's a food allergy or environmental or whatever, my goal isn't like, avoid this for the rest of your life, or, take this to augment it. It is to strengthen the system so that these things are no longer a problem. Of course, that's a harder road. It's a longer road. It's a road that takes a lot more discipline than getting a prescription for Claritin or for something like that. A really interesting episode in my life is we have lived in New Hampshire for, basically our whole lives. And we did a stint in New Jersey for like a year in 1997. Came back to New Hampshire. Anyway, we went down to the southern part of Connecticut, Weston, Connecticut, so Fairfield County. And we landed there in the summer. And I had never had allergies that I knew at all. Never, sneeze, nothing. And my face blows up so you cannot recognize it. And I have histamine draining from the corners of my eyes and my lips, my neck. You can still see redness there. That is from like leftover reaction from this. And, I finally figured out that it was an inhaled pollen that I wasn't used to. It was out of my environment. It had never been there before. But I'm a person who's basically healthy and I don't get sick and I have a good immune system and never had a history of allergies. And all of a sudden, I mean, you would laugh. You could not recognize my face. And then what happened was, well, I began to get some of the local honey of the plants that were around and do that teaspoon a day of that to try to get my system kind of desensitized to whatever that plant was that was doing this. And it helped anyway. As winter goes on now, as summer goes and fall comes in, everything's waning and everything, and then people start getting Christmas trees. You go to somebody's house with a Christmas tree. I've had Christmas trees all my life, but I'd be in their house with a new Christmas tree, and my neck starts itching, and all of this starts to happen. So that's kind of my personal experience with, wow, I was not an allergic person. I have a strong immune system. It wasn't, I just went to a whole different area. And a lot of times people think if you have something on your skin, it's because a skin reaction is because contact dermatitis, right? Something touched your skin. Must be you changed your detergent, or maybe that is the case with some people. But for me, it was an inhaled something. And yeah, I mean.
Yeah, so I think for our namesake here, Proactive Health Collective with Keen, I think when we're working with people as well, it's how do we adapt better? How do we strengthen our body systems so we can adapt better to the environment, whatever it is? And I think that's what health really is the body being able to keep up and adapt with the environment.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of things that can be done there, obviously from a lifestyle standpoint and from the standpoint of, maybe helping your body with herbs or supplements or things like that to help certain systems. There's also something, it's a little bit hard to describe, but the body can become sensitized to certain things where, your immune system has dealt with this particular thing. Could be wheat for some people. And it gets to the point where you used to be able to tolerate it, and then you tolerate less and less, and even a little amount will just get the body really reacting to it. And so there is, I think you still need to cover your bases as far as getting your system straight, your digestive system in good shape, and handling, outside toxins and all that. But you can also do desensitization work, which is, has a lot to do with acupuncture points and things. But you can actually kind of get the body to calm down so it's not so reactive to things. And that could include pollens and those things, but foods and, lots of things that people are reactive to.
Yeah.
So there's some pre stuff you can do and some post stuff that you can do, around these types of challenges.
That's cool. I don't know much about that. So you're saying you kind of expose your body to the allergen and then you like do some work or some exercises that desensitize your body to it?
It's more in the energetic realm, so again, we're talking about kinesiology and the kits that we have that have the energetic vibrations of all these different things. Okay. And it's like I do a technique, it's based off of it's if you know anything about NATE, like Nambujapad's allergy elimination technique, similar to that, kind of off that structure a little bit. It's a little different than that, but that's the idea. And you kind of go through, we use a laser and go through the different acupuncture points as a person's holding that vial, and there's some tapping points and stuff to be done as well.
Cool.
It works really well. It's what I find is that we have to clear the liver and the systems and detoxify and get our baseline, and then it's much more effective. Whereas if you do this, it can kind of desensitize you a little bit, and you can be like, all right, I'm good, but then it's a short lasting thing. So, you know.
I always
Right. So,
find
a lot
that-
of times- oh, go ahead, Ellen.
yeah, I always find that allergies are tough to treat when you're in it. They're just tough. And I'll have people use like a tiger warmer, which is a type of moxa, like a heat stimulation. It's nice to just decrease the inflammation and get the lymph to circulate stuff through, but really treating the symptom. But if people have allergies this time of year, I'm always looking, oh yeah, they have allergies. Let's talk about that now and start treating that now. And I'll have people do like there's one supplement that I really like, that I'll have people start a couple months beforehand. But
What is it?
your body.
What is it?
I found it in New Mexico. It's called Relief, like RELEAF.
Yeah.
It's two different formulas, and it's got like bromelain and quercetin in one, and then it has a bunch of different herbs. And I was curious if it was going to work as well up in New England, because a lot of the herbs are from New Mexico. But it's been working for my patients.
I would love to know about that.
Sure, I'll send
You
you.
off.
It's Herb Farm is the.
No, I mean, I love stuff like that. We know that spring is a big time for cleansing. So, my hard hitting liver stuff always is glutathione, right? But if you look at herbal medicine like dandelion leaf, red clover is huge, stinging nettle, burdock root, things like that. These are great things to bring in the spring as if you're going to use like sort of a tonic seasonal cleanse. Just these herbs that are they're gentle, but they're powerful and just kind of like getting things out. I think all of us in our practices and the way we practice, we understand the seasonal changes. We need like a detox in the spring. We need a detox in the fall. And there's certain things that are helpful. So this can be something that's just really helpful for people to cross that bridge.
I got a question for you, Becky. And for those of you watching that don't know, Becky, you get raw materials.
Yeah.
And make your own herbs in your shop. She's not just somebody who buys stuff
right
wherever. I mean, you do have products that you
right,
use as well, but you make your own stuff. So I'm assuming you're using mostly like local stuff, like stuff that's pretty close, right?
No.
Or am I wrong about that?
No. Because
okay, so you get.
I can't guarantee soil. So I can't, like, if somebody says to me, can I provide you with this? So I have a woman I get elderberry from every fall or late summer. And she lives out in the boonies and she's out in meadows. And I know that there's no gasoline, coming, but I can't get dandelion from somebody who gathers it. I don't know. Was there soil of former landfill or,
Right.
where are they? So I basically buy my raw materials from credentialed places that I can say these are USDA grade, organic there, or if you can't get that wildcrafted web. So I work with Frontier, I work with Starwood Botanicals, I work with Mountain Rose Herbs, people like that I can actually see on the label where this came from, what its authenticity is.
Yeah, I didn't even get to my question, which was really, kind of based on something else. I was saying, you got those herbs from New Mexico, wondering would they work for you as a, New Englander? And I'm curious because, obviously, Allison, you're using Chinese herbs. I'm sure they're coming from China, right? I don't know. And we're using stuff. Is stuff local? Is there a thing about local stuff that we use that we, sort of like the pollens and the things? Are there local herbs that if we were sort of I know we've moved, like very recently, all of us have moved from different areas of the world. So I don't know if this applies, but I wonder if, like a native population that was in an area for many years using certain herbs and, the plants that grew around them, if there would be like an adaptation to that versus taking stuff from everywhere around the world.
I think so, definitely. And I think, allergies are a really interesting thing because if there's nothing wrong with your immune system, it's just that it's recognizing something as a foreign threat, but it's not actually a threat. It's just that it doesn't recognize it. So it's creating this response to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we can't have this conversation without talking about the microbiome, right? So all the stuff that you get in the soil that you can expose your body to, then your body becomes familiar with it and it doesn't get freaked out when it sees it because it's not the first time that it's seen it. And that's why, kids that will play outside all the time generally have less allergies as an adult. And so when, talking about local versus foreign things, we're in such a, we live in a world where we're so, we're getting influences from all over the place. We're constantly traveling and things like that. So I think that probably helps our immune system and maybe makes us more, maybe makes it so that things that don't grow so local can work for us, as opposed to a long time ago where you never had any type of interaction with things that were outside of your immediate environment.
Yeah. Yeah, but a lot of people's immune systems are going a little wacko because of just all of the things outside of foods, just all the things that.
I want to address that, and I know it's an unpopular subject in the mainstream, but I did want to say one of our attendees. I moved to Florida in July. I didn't feel any of that. I craved the sun even more. I didn't feel any overflow. I feel more alive here. Yep, we're coming to New Hampshire in 2 weeks. I hope it's not too cold. So that's kind of cool. And she's really enjoying the governor down there too, with a little bit of more freedom. One thing I wanted to say is, Dr. Jean, you were asking about, so turmeric, right, doesn't really grow in New England. There are a lot of things. There's a lot of herbs, rhodiola rosea, kind of, Russian sort of thing. And I think these things we can respond to well, even if they're not in our own personal, environment. Mm-hmm. What's really interesting is a lot of times there are seasonal, no, not seasonal, but there are herbs that overlap, east meets west. Michael Tierra, who was head of the American Herbal Association, took many classes with him. East meets west, he has a whole course, which I signed up for and I haven't had time to take, but so you have different things in Western herbal medicine that do the same thing in Chinese or, Ayurvedic. But I do find people just tend to respond well to things like, holy basil, or, that's not in our climate, holy basil, turmeric, a lot of the, I think we can benefit from them, whether it's kind of our natural thing or not. But I get the point, because you're kind of saying, like, if you kind of compare that to the diet, what is the native diet, right? So if you were born in, one place, you're going to eat more of this, you're going to eat less of that, but it works well for you. It just does, because it's your traditional native diet. So I think there's a lot of value in the question you raised, Dr. Jean.
There's a lot of interesting questions that could be asked, about where you come from and, your lineage, I guess, and how that might affect your diet, or maybe, you come in as a particular type of person, like certain people, you have personality types and maybe they're sign or something like that, but they, certain people do well with certain things and not with others. So I guess that's the thing that's interesting to me, is that people come in And everybody's got heavy metal toxicities. Everybody's got chemicals. Everybody's got underlying stealth pathogens, really to some extent. And some do well with an herbal combination. Some do well with a whole food. Some do well with homeopathics. And it's just a curious thing as to what's the difference and why.
That goes straight to the whole point here, that we're not living in the Garden of Eden. Number one, none of us are in our tribe. We're a melting pot. Genetically, we are mixed, and we move around a lot more.
Bunch of mutts.
Yeah, bunch of mutts, and we move a lot. We move, so people here, there. So there's a lot of that. But what you were just talking about, Dr. Jean, toxicity. People's immune systems are overladen with toxins that they have no idea they're even getting. And they're there. Yeah, it's in the food, it's in the water, it's in the air, it's in everything. It's in all of the crap around you. And so there you go. And then, yes, and this is the topic I was going to say people don't always want to hear about, but vaccination totally disrupt the immune system. We have seen such vast increase in asthma, allergies, and things like that with the rolling out of more and more vaccinations for children. And we see all of these allergies. The immune system is designed, like Allison was talking about the microbiome. We are put together in a way that is supposed to function in a certain way. And when you just obliterate it, when you just like slam somebody with toxins and adjuvants and inflammatory things like aluminum sulfate and formaldehyde and you name it, bust through the gut wall, right? Causes inflammation that just disrupts the whole gut wall, and now foods and things that you encounter that are supposed to have a barrier from your intestine to your bloodstream, there's no barrier there. It's gone. And we have wreaked havoc. And these new things that are happening that aren't vaccines, that are called vaccines, we've unleashed.
Well, these are the kind of conversations that'll get you kicked off of media here, Becky. But I think, statistically speaking, something happened, in the late 80s that has seen a massive increase in allergies and autoimmune diseases and just general sick, kids being sick. When we were kids, there was no sick kids. When I was a kid, there was no sick kids. Everybody was, nobody had allergies. Nobody had things that you didn't have to have, no peanut sections and things like that.
I mean,
everybody had peanut butter. Everybody brought peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Anyway, something's happened. It just so happens to coincide with, what you mentioned there, with an introduction of many more of these injections, and I think the powers that be kind of refuse to really research it because I don't think they really care about it. But I think we have to be aware of when, just bringing it back to, okay, my spring allergies, it wasn't that necessarily God bestowed upon you that you would have allergies. It's like you grew up in a world that beat your immune system up. The good news is that you can do some things to repair this system. You can, your body is amazing in its ability to rebuild and repair. And the only time really quick, the only time it doesn't do that is when there are things in the way. Yeah. And so when you're having issues, there's chances are you got some things in the way.
Yeah, and I want to say that because I'm not going to not mention the COVID treatments that are not immunizations, have never been studied to be immunizations, and their effect on the immune system. We are going to see, we have unleashed health already. So you're basically setting yourself up to be an autoimmune attacker if you do this. And I just want to give one story. So I have a lot of clients, and a lot of them want to know, should I get this vaccine? And I'm like, no, 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 no. And what really kills me is my clients are people who invest in their health. They care. They're careful with their diet. They put money into supplements and all that kind of thing, right? But this family, they want to go on vacation to out the Caribbean, whatever. They do this every year this time. And then the family, the kids are like, well, you can't see your grandkids if you don't get this vaccination. So they've been on the fence for a few weeks. Supposed to leave on Monday for their vacation. So this coming Monday. So last Monday, I get an email. We're going to go get the shot this morning. Are there things I can take to detoxify from this? And I want to tell people right there, this is not your typical vaccination. I don't know what will make you detox from this. Okay, so don't even ask me that. Don't even bother asking, because I have no. It's not your typical thing.
It's really interesting that I'm getting calls every week, and several people asking me, about that. Well, hey, can I ask you, what do you think about this? And I asked them, I said, well, let me ask you this. Have you researched this at all? Do you understand how it works? Do you understand what the risks are? What the long-term risks might be? Have you done any research? And guess what the answer is always? No. Well, no, but and I'm like, okay, well, here are the questions I would ask, and I list my questions, and I would say, this is what if I were you, and you're going to do something, any procedure really, any medical procedure, you should has these same set of questions, and you should, here are the questions, and then I will give them, go answer those questions, and if you feel comfortable, then you do it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some unanswered questions and unknowns for sure for people, and the possibility on the negative side of some of these things is very great, and a nice little outlet there.
Well, let me tell you what happened to this couple. Okay, so she emails me on Monday morning of this week. We're gonna go get it. What can I do to detoxify? I said, call me ASAP. I'm trying to last ditch talk her out of this. She's got health problems. These people, they don't need another load on their health, right? So anyway, they get it. She called me yesterday because to go on their trip to leave Monday, she had to get COVID tested yesterday morning, and she tested positive. She has no symptoms. Yeah, the family was so happy you got the vaccine, so they were gracefully allowed to be with their grandchildren the next day. So now here's the deal. They can't go on their trip. The whole family, the grandchildren and parents are all quarantined for 14 days. Her husband was going to go to work that morning. He can't go to work. One of the older grandsons has a job. He can't go to work for 14 days. She has no symptoms. She tested positive 4 days after getting this vaccine. This is criminal. Absolutely ridiculous. And families holding other people accountable. You must get this or you can't be near me. Well, tell them, well, then I can't be near you. Because
I have a word for that,
Yeah.
It's called coercion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, just to disclose to the group, anybody who's watching, one of the reasons we began this group was just saw some scary things going on. And, one of, if not my highest concern in the realm of health is, medical tyranny, is the medical establishment, forcing their ideology and treatment upon the masses. And they have done it for many years in a propagandistic way, in taking over, agencies like the CDC and things like that. And, so we get this information that comes down, and we're taught somewhere along the line to believe that, oh, well, this agency, everything that they can say is the truth and what you should do. And people actually follow that. Well, the CDC says I should do that. It's like, okay, so we have this,
the rush to emergency, because people don't have time to stop and think about it and consider. They're being like, you can't see your grandchildren. You can't go visit your father. I had somebody else ask me yesterday. She's like, if I don't get, what do you think about the Johnson & Johnson versus the others? I am not an expert on this. I do see the differences, but please, that's not my call. But the doctor, her father's doctor in the South, has just said, if nobody can visit him if they're not vaccinated. That's not a law. That's not like a legal thing, but they're taking advantage. Family members are taking advantage to produce this really severe peer pressure that is instantaneous. It's like, I have to make this decision right now, so I'm just going to go do it. And yeah, it's pretty surreal.
And we talk about all these toxins that are clearly there that we are bombarding our systems, but you can't forget glyphosate is an antibiotic and it's literally everywhere. I mean, yes. Even if you, can you even, like, if it's certified organic, does that mean it definitely doesn't have glyphosate, or does it still kind of infiltrate that? I wonder. But not only that.
Here's what I would say, Allison, just real quick on that. If you can find penguins in Antarctica with PCBs or whatever that were banned 30 years ago, you can find glyphosate everywhere.
Right. And the antibiotics, it just goes to show you, it's so, Western medicine has so kind of infiltrated everything that the viewpoint of boosting your immune system with your natural microbiome that you get from the soil and the microbes in there that occur naturally, and even the fungus, that gets wiped out. And then you're going to introduce something that's going to further harm your immune, further aggravate your immune system. It's things are pretty backward. And
well, if you want to go down, are you?
I was just going to say, like, along the lines, like, I am such a science person, and I think a lot of people that are into their health are really focused on the science. And when you go to school, for biology or something, there's no time to learn history. You are just inundated with chemistry and biology and psychology and all the sciences. But I think the history of and the politics behind where we're at in terms of Western medicine is so important to know, and you don't really get that information. I've only kind of stumbled upon things in the last few years, just kind of mostly because I've been wondering with these big decisions with the vaccines and things, and being connected with you guys. But I think it really needs to become public knowledge how the CDC has kind of formed and what decisions have been made, and the people and the special interests and where the money's going. It's a really important topic. I think not many people are informed about,
because it is purposely censored. I mean, it's amazing, censorship. Even things that I hate Facebook as a way to get points out, but I'll do it. But I put something up that is not according to the story, and hardly anybody sees it. They make sure of that. So that's just one example. But things becoming public knowledge, there is no debate. Our media is completely controlled. It's got one narrative, and it's going down that way. So if we could just please, I mean, that's what we've been trying to do since we formed Proactive Health Collective team. Jean and I did, several things together, these things. We try to bring knowledge up to please, but you're trying to fight a horde. I mean, you are absolutely opposed at every turn. It is for people who have ears to hear. We just had Jen was saying to us in the chat box about the family pressure, that exact thing is bearing down on our family right now. So then, sorry, we won't be able to see you. They're going to be here in a few minutes and we'll have to eat lunch outside. We're in a time, and things we say are covered up at every turn. And it's not like us. Who are we, right? I mean, we're in our own realm, and I think what we're doing is important. I think everybody, what we're doing is important, but we're talking like, you know, the frontline doctors. We're talking about huge organizations and people out there with mega credentials talking about this. And you can't find that. You can't find that information.
It's interesting too, and I always wonder, like, well, how does this? How can we be in this place where we're pushing aside information and only listening to certain people? I think it's Allison mentioned people in health, are generally interested in science, but there's also in understanding of science, there's inductive and deductive science, and inductive science is based on these numbers that you gather and collect, and the downside or the challenge in it can be that sometimes you don't have all the numbers. You thought you had all the numbers, but you don't have all the numbers. And when you do have all the numbers, it changes the outcome of that data. And sometimes, depending on who's paying for the collection of the data and the analysis of the data can be manipulated to support whatever narrative you want. And it's become to, what is popularly known as scientism now, which is like the science. But I think what's missing and what's a challenge is that people, I think, need to apply their own deductive reasoning to this, so that's why you would question, well, so if this thing, you're gonna roll out this injection here, and it hasn't been studied past 6 months. So we know that we don't know what could happen in 5 years. We have no idea what could happen. And so that would be using a logical science, a deductive science. There's logic is a science as well, where you say, wait a second, if we don't know what could happen, that means there's X amount of risk here for me. And so this scientism has come down to say, no, here are the numbers that we have. You're not allowed to use the science of logic coupled with our science of just inductive numbers, which we've had put together. You don't have access to or anything. And so I think that's the challenge. And this has been something that's been going on like in the medical profession really for many years. It's this introduction of chemicals into the body and so forth. And again, there's a time and a place for that stuff, but they use this scientism to their advantage and have been for many years.
So this, I want to share my screen. Hang on. Oh, I can't. No.
And I just want to say real quick, Connie put a question in there a while ago about rosacea. She was wondering what we could do about rosacea. So we'll definitely get to that, Connie. Don't stick around.
I don't know if I'm actually sharing the screen. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to just read this. This is a study out of, published in the National Library of Medicine in 2005, February 14th, about impact of influenza vaccination on seasonal mortality in the U.S. elderly population. They came out anyway, the whole thing, but the conclusion, we attribute the decline in influenza-related mortality among people aged 65 to 74 years in the decade after the 1968 pandemic to the acquisition of immunity to the emerging A, H3N2 virus. We could not correlate increasing vaccination coverage after 1980 with declining mortality rates in any age group because fewer than 10% of all winter deaths were attributed to influenza in any season. We conclude that observational studies substantially overestimate vaccination benefit. But what are you told? Get your flu shot. I mean, all I'm saying is we have ripped people off. We're ripping them off. But I'm sorry to say, and I don't mean to malign anyone, but people are too willing to be ripped off. And that's how this happens. If somebody says you need to put a face diaper on and you go, that doesn't make any sense, or you just say, oh, okay, it's not flattering. It's not flattering to our population. Yeah, that's how we got where we are.
Yeah, interesting thing we were also talking about, I think, Allison, you were talking about the microbiome and the importance of that. And, there's a natural order here where we do interact with environmental viruses and bacteria and things like that. And it helps us build our immune systems. And, one of the things I was not happy about is with less interaction, and like my kids not getting to interact as much with other kids, they're not getting the opportunity to strengthen their immune systems as they could. And I think that's one, that could be a disservice certainly to a lot of people. We don't know the outcome. What does that mean 20 years down the road for these kids and their immune systems that are in a mask all day or something like that? We don't really know. There's no data to look at, but there's certainly some logical conclusions we could make there.
Yeah, not only is he not strengthening his immune system, but he's killing all of the he's basically depleting his immune system by sanitizing being required everywhere. But yeah, we've got just a little less than 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure we answer Connie's question. I really have loved the participation this hour, so thanks, guys. But Connie was wondering about rosacea and if there's anything you could do about it. My input would be that skin conditions are generally have a very strong tie to gut health, especially inflammatory conditions like redness that you see in rosacea. And my latest thing for rosacea, I learned from Susan, who is the creator of Totem Boss collagen chews. And she has been, when I wanted to add these to my inventory because I thought collagen would be great for my patients with osteoporosis and rebuilding the bones. And after speaking with her, she enlightened me that collagen, it's a building blocks for everything, hair, skin, nails, but also your heart health. So the health of your arteries and the microvilli in your intestine are made of collagen too. So she's been using it for people with inflammatory skin conditions and seeing really great results. And she did she had a before and after picture of someone with rosacea, and they just did it for, I think it was 3 weeks or something. And it was significantly better. So yeah, Totem Boss, TOTOMVOSS, I believe.
Yeah, and Allison carries those. I don't know if you do, Dr. Jean, but I do. They're on my website, Susanna Camphouse. She's right here. She's right here in Keene.
Yeah. I guess you could say carry them, but I go through them so fast that we don't carry them.
Yeah.
They're really good.
They're on the shelf.
Really good.
We blow through them so
Oh my God.
We blow through them so fast. What I want to say about her, collagen, people ask me about collagen supplements, powder. There's a lot of good things out there. Susanna is super careful about her sources. She doesn't even get chicken broth in this country. She uses her chicken collagen from Europe because she's concerned about, what the chickens are eating, kind of thing. She also has in there the right amount of, oh gosh, I think it's vitamin C that actually makes this happen. So she has 3 different forms. She has the chai beet, she has the turmeric lemon, and the mocha chews. And they're delicious, but they are probably, if you just really want to, I love to boost collagen from down underneath. So I like MSM powder and vitamin C and stuff for that. But these things are off the map. And it's exactly right, Allison, when you talk about rosacea, the before and after pictures, amazing. Rosacea has a lot to do with the immune system. So, yeah, that, like you said, the gut and the villi and all of that kind of stuff, that's all immune system. That's really deep underneath. We also, we make a, it's not advertising, but we make a cream, Immune Skin, that has beta glucan grown on yeast because it brings the immune system up to the top of the skin and deals with microbial overgrowth and stuff like that. So rosacea is a tough thing, but yeah, there are definitely, I love what you said. And
Yeah, and from a Chinese medicine perspective, think of like yin type foods that are going to hydrate the skin and cool the skin. So cucumber, honeydew melon or cantaloupe, and watermelon, things like really those juicy types of vegetables and fruits.
Yeah. Just like Allison said, I agree 100%. You're talking about the gut as the primary source here, immune system. You'll with rosacea and really a lot of the autoimmune conditions, you're going to have the spleen, again, part of the immune system that's very compromised and could use some help as well. But we take, first of all, any chronic condition that goes long enough becomes autoimmune in nature in everybody. Just the mechanism of what's happening, the inflammation, the breakdown of the digestive system. It's pretty much, you want to talk about a pandemic? Breakdown of people's digestive systems is a pandemic. And talking upper GI, not breaking down our foods properly, absorption and microbiome with all the things that you mentioned, the things that we're coming in contact all the time. So this is really common. So with whatever autoimmune condition you have, rosacea, lupus, fibromyalgia, whatever, there needs to be a comprehensive look at the digestive system from top to bottom to make sure that that's handled. Because if any of those pieces is missing, you're not going to have resolution. There's no, you can suppress symptoms with things for a while with drugs or even herbs, but if you want to have resolution, you really got to reset the system from the ground up.
yeah, and this is the one thing I would say about my own health. When I was a kid, I was chronically constipated. I mean, it was a problem until I was probably a teenager. I don't really know what changed things, but
What, Rebecca?
I don't know what really changed things, but
You were chronically,
when
what?
I was a child,
When you were a child?
constipated, yeah. Now,
She doesn't know that she's breaking up. Your sound is very in and out.
When you were a
my
kid?
sound is,
Yeah,
It's a little muffled, yeah. But we just missed the, when you were a kid, you were chronically,
constipated.
oh,
so no, I mean, my bowel habits have been awesome for my whole adult life, but I've never been on I haven't been on antibiotics. I don't do drugs. I don't do vaccines. I don't do anything. My intestinal microbiome is, I don't take probiotics because I don't need to. I make my own like everybody's supposed to. And I think that's one like underlying foundation of my great health is I have no intestinal issue. And we're birthing babies and we're in 12 hours giving them a shot of aluminum and formaldehyde that's going to bust through their gut. They haven't even hardly breathed for 12 hours and you're going to like destroy their immune system. What we're doing is wrong. We are making people sick. People are sick because we've made them sick. And we're making them sicker right now.
we have another question here. Does acid reflux break down your gut health? Dr. Jean, do you want to answer that one?
Acid reflux is not a cause, it's an effect. Typically, and there can be different reasons, you can have like a structural issue where your flap isn't working or something happened there. But typically what happens is your gastric cells aren't producing enough acid. You're not really breaking down your foods and moving to the next chamber quickly. And as a result of that, things sit there, putrefy and push up gases and push up, burping up into the esophagus where the acid is not supposed to be. So, again, the typical medical treatment for acid reflux is to douse the acid even more. The consequences of that treatment are you don't break down your proteins properly, to get the amino acids you need. You don't break free from your food's minerals like calcium, magnesium, and zinc, and so forth. And you break down one of your barriers to pathogens, most of which are going to come in the alimentary canal. When they hit the acid, that's it. That's a barrier. But if it's not enough acid, say they're in your foods, you don't break down your foods properly, they can end up passing to more hospitable chambers down below.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I totally agree. Totally, that was a great explanation. There are also a couple of other things that happen. Many people have hiatal hernia. It's and that's a problem that, it influences that. Also, I think I wanted to say that hiatal hernia.
Yeah, that would be in your structural problems.
A structural problem that a lot of people don't know they have. Also, the thing is, like Dr. Jean was saying, what happens is if you don't have enough acid in your stomach, right? That stuff is broken down. And so the small intestine, so that's supposed to be acid. Your small intestine is all alkaline. So basically, the small intestine is saying, stay away, stay away, stay away. And that's why you feel really full after you eat for a long extent. But now, they finally have to let it go, otherwise you're going to die. So they do. And that food that Dr. Jean was talking about now starts to ferment, and it's not broken down to the right point by the acid, and it's sitting in your small intestine, and it starts to produce gas and all kinds of problems. Also, like he said, the acid is needed to kill H. pylori, to kill organisms, to do that. There are certain things, exactly, nutrients. Most are taken up in the small intestine, but certain things are done in the stomach. And we're killing people with this stuff. And all they do with the PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, is they tell the parietal cells not to make stomach acid. Well, proton pumps are used throughout the whole body. They're used in your brain, your cardiovasculature, it shuts off all your proton pumps.
Right. Well, don't worry about those things. Just get the symptom handled.
Oh, yeah, just you feel better. You feel better after you eat.
And she wants to know, do enzymes help?
Yeah.
I like to use a combination of enzymes for the small intestine. So that's amylase, protease, basically, and lipase for the fat and the protein and the carbohydrates. But I like to use one of the combination of betaine hydrochloride, which is for the stomach part, which is the acid.
Yeah, agreed with all that. And, again, in an ideal world, we're making our own acid and everything is hunky-dory, but there's, certain foods like, one of the herbs we use is coated with bitters. So you take it and, you have bitter receptors in your mouth, your mouth and your throat, your esophagus, and it stimulates the gastric cells to get going. And then there's herbs on the inside that can rehabilitate those gastric cells. But one thing I wanted to mention is that what happens upstream in that whole acid situation and balance, the pH and everything, it affects things downstream. That affects the microbiome, the bowel function downstream as well. Not only in absorption in the small intestine, but even in the large bowel too. So that's what I'm saying is it's very important to look at all of the pieces of the puzzle, because if you're missing a piece or two, you still don't have the, what you want there. So I totally agree with you Becky on that. Yeah. So enzymes, by the way, you can pick, you pick an apple off a tree, you have foods that you pick freshly, they do have enzymes, right? But if they're sitting on a truck from California for a couple of weeks, by the time they get to you, in the grocery store for another week, you're losing some of that, that you might have gotten.
Potency. And that's like more for the protein. Unfortunately, like what we're all saying is, in the perfect world, we wouldn't need digestive enzymes. We wouldn't need betaine hydrochloride. Oh, right. That's what I wanted to say. And this is without iodine. And Dr. Jean, you've been doing a lot through your own work with thyroid. It's a big thing that you do. So iodine deficiency is huge there, but you can't make stomach acid without iodine. And basically everyone is iodine deficient. So we are looking at deep roots of like how does somebody become so unhealthy? How do these things bubble up? And it's not just one thing. It's a lot of things that are going missing. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's really the key. What you just said right there is the biggest nugget for people to have out there is you have to understand that it's an onslaught of many things. Some are toxic, some are malnutrition, some are stress, some are cultural, you know, in
Some are pharmaceutical.
yeah, there's so many different things that, you know, so like when you're looking at your health, I think the big idea is that you need to take a big picture approach. You just need to look at things, and it might mean using more than one practitioner, you know, like we go to a practitioner like, oh, this person's going to be my Jesus and just, you know, resurrect me. Sometimes you need to work on different areas. You certainly need to have a game plan, I think, and kind of, and become aware of all the things that are out there. If you do that, I think you have your best chance. And spring is in the air, right?
Yeah.
So,
Be proactive. Don't let it get to that point.
I just want to
Yeah.
say this, like, speaking of what Jean just said, my daughter is in Philly. She's coming home for a week, and she's like, okay, she follows my advice and all that kind of stuff. She goes, I'm making 3 appointments with Allison right now for that week. She goes, I'm just going to book it because she so resonated with you. So I love this is what we're saying. There are so many different approaches. We all look at it. I think we look at it the same, but our ways of working with it are more honed into our particular expertise areas. But
I got a great analogy for that. You're remodeling your house, and you know you have somebody that's really good at plumbing. You have another person that's really good at masonry. You have somebody that's good. There's all things that need to be done and can help with the rehabilitation of the house. But sometimes you need some different expertise to get the best results in those areas.
Yeah.
right,
We're all just people. We don't have all the answers, but we will.
we're here. Thanks for joining us. And I learn always so much from you too. I mean, and when Chief and Matt are here, it's a learning session for me. So I appreciate it.
It's always fun, and no matter what the topic is, you never know where it'll go.
Yeah.
So tune in next time.
Especially with
So
us.
we'll be back in 2 weeks. Is that right? We'll be back in 2 weeks for the third Friday of the month, and that's our week for a guest, isn't it?
Yeah,
Who's
Yes.
joining us next time?
I'll figure it out.
It's a mystery guest. We have a mystery guest joining us next time, but it'll be good.
I'll figure it out.
And we'll throw it on our Facebook feeds or something like that. But anyway, thanks everyone
right.
so much
Thank
for
you, everyone.
giving me a
All right.
little smile today. I enjoyed it.
Take care.
Yeah.
All right.
Take care now.
Have a great weekend.